In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to factor trinomials with a leading coefficient of something other than 1. In the last lesson, we learned how to factor without that leading coefficient. Now, what we could do here sometimes is find a GCF and factor that out to see if we can get rid of this leading coefficient. So when I look at 4x squared plus 32 plus 60, I know I have a GCF here of 4. So I can factor a 4 from each of those. So when I factor out a 4, I'm left with x squared plus 8x plus 15. Now I can factor out, or I can factor this example here. So I know I've got a product of 15, so I get 15 by 1 and 5. The sum is not 8. 3 and 5, and the sum is 8. I think I might have said 1 and 5. I think I meant 1 and 15. So I have factored this out. Next, it's your turn. Please hit pause. When you're finished, go ahead and hit play, and the answer to the your turn will pop up. So hit pause now. The answer here is 8 times the quantity x minus 1 and x minus 6. So let's look here at example 2. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. One of the things that we can do is set up a chart, or we can just kind of do a little guess and check and see what we end up with here. So I know that to get this x squared was x times x. So if I look at 2x squared, I know I'm going to need to have a 2x and an x, because I'm going to need to find the product of this one and the product of this. So this is where the 15 came from, 3 times 5. So I know to start off, I'm going to have something that looks like this. Now I've got to concern myself with this 7x. So I've got a 6 here, and I can get to 6 by doing a 2 plus 3, or a 2 times 3. So I can do a 2 and a 3 here. So here, 2x squared, here 6, but now I've got to come up with this 7x. So if I take a look, so I've got 6x plus 2x gives me 8x, so that didn't work. So now I got to try another one. So let's see, 2x plus 3, x plus 2. So now I have a 4x plus 3x, which gives me 7x. So there is my solution. Now, one of the ways I can do this is to come up with using this chart so that I don't have a lot of guess and check, because if this 2 and 3 didn't work, I could use 1 and 6. So what I'm going to do here is kind of look for some patterns here. And so I know that my first factor here is 4. My second factor here is 3. But I got to watch out here because this is negative. So that means these two have to be negative. So my factors here, I could have 1 and 4 with a negative 1 and a negative 3. I could have 1 and 4 with a negative 3 and a negative 1. Or I can do a 2 and a 2 with a negative 1 and a negative 3. So what does that look like here? So this would give me an x minus 1 times 4x minus 3. So what is my middle term here? So that's negative 3x minus 4x, which gives me negative 7x. So I can stop here because I have my middle term. So this is my final answer. Now, if this wasn't my final answer, I would need to continue until I got the correct middle term. Now, sometimes the problems are a little bit bigger. Keep in mind, you only have to go until you find the solution. So while you may have a huge chart here, you may not need to use it. But what are my factors? So my leading coefficient is 3. My constant is a -6. So now that I know this is a -6, I need to have a positive and a negative factor here. My only solutions here really are 1 and 3. So I don't have a whole lot to work there. But what could I do? I could do a -1 and a 6, a 1 and a -6, a 6 and a -1, a -6 and a +1, 2 and -3, -2 and 3, 3 and -2, and -3 and 2. Now I have all these choices because I have this factor of 3. So I've got to look to see what we end up with. And my goal here is to have a -7x. Now, I know here with these 6s, I may end up with some pretty big numbers or some pretty small numbers depending on how we do it. But let's take a look. So I'd have x minus 1 times 3x plus 6. So my middle term would be 6x minus 3x, which would give me 3x. So that didn't work. Let's try this one. X plus 1 times 3x minus 6. So I have negative 6x plus 3x, which gives me a negative 3x. So far, not getting a -7. So I'm going to keep going. X plus 6, 3x minus 1. So let's see, that is, oops, over here. So negative x plus 18x. Now I know that's definitely not going to work. That gives me -17. So x minus 6. All right, so I have an x minus 6, 3x plus 1. So that gives me x minus 18x. Oops, this is a positive 17. Gives me a negative 17x. All right, let's see. So keep on going. So I have an x plus 2, 3x minus 3. So I have negative 3x plus 6x, which gives me a positive 3x. Boy, I am really doing a lot of work here. X minus 2, 3x plus 3. So let's see, that's 3x minus 6x, which gives me negative 3x. Well, I know I'm down to my last two here, so let's see, hopefully. So x plus 3, 3x minus 2, so that gives me negative 2x plus 9x equals 7x. So I know this next one's going to work because these two are going to be switched, but let's just keep going. So x minus 3, 3x plus 2, so that's 2x minus 9x, which equals negative 7x. So my solution here is x minus 3 times 3x plus 2. So sometimes it is a little bit of work here, but that's okay. All right, here's what I'd like for you to do. Hit pause and do your turns. All right, my final answer for 2 is 7x plus 5 times 2x plus 3. My answer for 3, x minus 1, 2x minus 5. Number 4, 3x minus 2, x minus 4. I have 4x plus 1, x minus 5. Okay, now we have a negative number here. When we have a negative leading coefficient, we always want to factor out the -1. It's going to save us a lot of time when factoring. So now I factor out our -1. That leaves me with 9x squared plus 3x minus 2. But because we factored out that -1, my answer is going to look something like this. I can't forget that -1. So I'm now looking at factors of 9 and -2. So I have 1 and 9, and I have 3 and 3. So let's see, I can do 1 and -2, -1 and 2, 1, -2, -1 and 2. And you may need more boxes if you need to. So let's see, what do we end up with here? So x plus 1 times 9x minus 2. So that's -2x plus 9x gives me positive 7x. That didn't work. X minus 1, 9x plus 2. So that gives me 2x minus 9x, which gives me a negative 7x. All right, 3x plus 1, 3x minus 2. So what is that? So that's negative 6x plus 3x gives me negative 3x. So I can stop right here because this is my factored form. Don't forget we've got a -1 here. So I've got 3x plus 1 times 3x minus 2. All right, your turn. Go ahead and hit pause. When you're done, unpause and check your work. So 6, factored out a -1. You don't have to have that 1 there. I did up here in the example just to kind of show you where that came from. So that's y plus 1 times 2y plus 3. All right, factor out that -1, and I have m minus 1, 5m minus 1. Now, would it be okay if these two were switched? Absolutely. All right, so let's take a look at modeling a real-world problem. The length of a rectangular state park is 2 miles longer than twice its width. The area of the park is 84 square miles. What is the width of the park? I have no idea. So I know I've got a rectangular park. The area is 84, and here's my width, and the length is 2 miles longer than twice. So that's twice plus 2. And I know the area is length times width. So that gives me 84 equals W times 2W plus 2. So let me go ahead and multiply that out. So we get 2W squared plus 2W. Subtract 84 from both sides. So we always want it set equal to 0. I forgot my W there. Plus 2W minus 84. Factor out a 2. So I've got W squared plus W minus 42, which is nice because now I don't have a leading coefficient here. So I know that I have 0. I've got something that looks like this. This is negative, so I've got 1 positive, 1 negative. The difference is 1, so that would be 8 and 7, or I'm sorry, 6 and 7. So positive 6, positive 7, minus 6. Now at this point, I need to set all these equal to 0. I don't need to worry about that 2. So let's take a look. W plus 7 equals 0. W minus 6 equals 0. So W equals -7. W equals 6. I cannot have a negative distance. So I know W equals 6. Did I answer my question? What is the width of the park? So my answer here is the width is 6 miles. Fabulous. All right, so go ahead and hit pause and try your turn. All right, so what was the width of the garden here? That was 6 yards because you ended up with an equation that was 96 equals W times 2W plus 4. All right, have a great day. If you've got